Ahoy! There we are. How are you doing? Apologies for the delay there. I was chatting with my old pal Paula and it went a little bit over because she's the most based civilian woman that I've ever met. She's got the political nuance of a four-star general, bless her. And yeah, we got into it on Ukraine. It was extremely interesting. So I'm going to be ranting about that, obviously, at some point. Yeah, it was amazing. So basically, in response to that non-story related to Trumpy Bear yesterday, it was what a beauty that was. Did anybody? I'm assuming a lot of you sensible people watched the whole thing rather than the last 5 minutes, because that's what happened there. The lying, dirty establishment hack media basically took 4 minutes from the end of a perfectly reasonable 43-minute conversation. And it only went massively tits up when the little jumped up poison dwarf started rolling his eyes and crossing his arms and basically just being a knobhead. And I think anybody who's even remotely impartial, who's got a functioning set of eyeballs, knows it. Because it was staggering. Like, if you watch the whole thing, the amount of pit. I'll tell you what, Trumpy Bear has exceeded the Bootneck expectations. I know I told you a lot that I didn't vote for him in 2016. But, well, or even 2020, right? In the end, I didn't. Couldn't be asked going to the polls, and I thought, who cares? But now, I'm embarrassed. I'll tell you what, the man, obviously I voted for him this time. The man totally exceeded my expectations. He was diplomatic. He was reasonable. And then, and the other thing which is fantastic about it is that he was totally calm and reasonable and logical. And then he only spat his dummy out when it had gone beyond the realm of being calm and reasonable and logical. And then he just massively debriefed him like you totally should have done. Like you totally should have done. Anyone who's like a parent or a military trainer or anyone who knows how to maturely discipline someone, like, yeah, you're calm and reasonable until that isn't working anymore, and then you have to get the big stick out. And he was perfect. He was, if anything, God bless the Orange Oracle. He was statesman-like in that. That was the most statesman-like I've seen him. Every time he was there going, oh, they're evil. He's a terrorist. He is evil. We will never, ever negotiate. Ever, ever, never. Throw all of the invaders out. Trump was like, come on. You need to talk peace. And only when it was clear that he'd been sent there on a mission by the European Union to refuse peace at all costs, only then did Trump lose his rag and say, throw him out. So I thought it was perfect. Days of darkness always in already. Putin begged for peace. Yeah, he did. Mystic Turtles, if I loved the Don anymore, I'd be gay. Yeah, honestly, I thought it was great. I really thought it was good. Very diplomatic. Just threw him out when it was not getting him anywhere. After 45 minutes of being diplomatic, he lost his rag with a jumped up little shit. It really annoyed me. I'll tell you why it annoyed me. Because now I'm an American taxpayer and we've gave Ukraine billions and billions and billions of dollars. And at one point, he said, we've been totally alone. We've got no help. And that's what made J.D. Vance and Donald Trump lose the rag. Like, again, I'm not going to bother showing you because I just went through to Paula. And I think everyone watching this has probably seen it. That's a good one. Boots dressed better for this than Zelensky was. Yeah, but it's so obvious. We all want peace apart from the globalists. Yeah, 100%. And I started ranting about this at the time, but I'm going to repeat myself now for you lot here. I think talking about Northern Ireland is a great sort of summation of it because I'm something of an expert on that subject after going it was my first ever deployment as a young bootneck. And then obviously doing all my required reading before I went. So I'm something of an expert on that such situation. And as I keep telling everybody, like, the genesis of that war started in 1607 to 1609, which was the plantation of Ulster. But I mean, it was even earlier than that, really, with mercenaries going over there. And essentially, the reason people dug their heels in is because humans are very tribal. We're just monkeys with clothes on. And obviously, if you come of Protestant descent, you were very, very proud of your heritage. And obviously, if you're a Catholic, you're very, very proud of your heritage. So the Catholics saw it as a full-scale invasion of their lands. The Protestants were like, yeah, but if you look at the history, there's a lot of complex machinations there, especially between the Catholics on the continent, the Pope and the Catholic Church, King Billy coming over, the Glorious Revolution, the plantation of Ulster 400 years ago. They were like, it's complicated, and you can't just tell a bunch of people who've been living here for 400 years. If you've been somewhere for 20 generations, you can't just go, oh yeah, well, you just send them all to live. This is how thick the stupid, ignorant Irish American types were. Though not even most of them, but a very significant minority of them weighed in on a subject they know nothing about. If you were to say to the average chippy, not all of them, chippy, aggressive, F the English, plastic paddy in America, oh yeah, you want to talk about Northern Ireland? Because some of the stuff I was drinking in Boston, and some of the absolute shite that some of them people said to me was laugh out loud funny. And the problem is they're talking to the wrong person, because I actually know what I'm talking about. So as I've told you many times, if you're arguing with someone woke, I pinched the technique off Mark Stein. I heard Mark Stein say it about 10 years ago. He's like, if you're arguing with somebody woke and they start gobbing off about one of these things, all you have to do is say to them, like, if they start gobbing off about Saudi Arabia or something, they'll have heard like the word Jamal Khashoggi on the BBC, and they start gobbing off about it, parroting a newsreader's opinions. But they don't read. These people never read. They don't know any history. They don't know any geography. They just know commie propaganda. So then you just say to them, oh, yeah, well, what's the capital of Riyadh? Sorry, what's the capital of Saudi Arabia? What's the capital of Yemen? What's the capital of... ask them basic questions about these places. And they don't know anything. They don't know anything. And when you get a chippy plastic paddy who goes, oh, yeah, F the English, even though, the vast majority of Irish aren't rabidly Anglophobic. They say stuff like that, so you just say to them, oh yeah, what year was the plantation of Ulster again? They haven't got any idea. They don't know anything. They probably wouldn't be able to pick it out on a map, Ireland. And the point is a salient one, because all the people gobbing off about Ukraine couldn't find it on a map 6 years ago. They don't know anything. They don't know about the putsch. They don't know about the coups. They don't know about the borders. They don't know about the promises made in the 80s to Gorbachev. And they don't know about Stalin and all the leaders of the EU being in a room. They don't know about them criminalising the Russian language in east of Ukraine, because that's what a lot of people are ethnically, and that's what they speak. It's such a complex thing that to have that little jumped up shit just flat out just go on TV and go, we have been alone and we will give them nothing. We give them nothing. We will fight forever. No diplomacy, is ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 90s, when the world made sense, the lefties and the Guardian readers and the BBC would be going, oh yeah, no more war, man. Flower power. Remember when the left used to hate war? How is it down to an angry bootneck to be anti-war? I mean, the world's gone mad. The world's gone mad, hasn't it? Bloke, builder with a frock, definitely a woman. Bird with a set of piss flaps, definitely a bloke. And an angry bootneck is anti-war, while Owen Jones loves it. Loves it. Owen Jones can't get enough war. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? The world's gone mad. An angry bootneck's like, maybe it's complex and nuanced and we should try and stop the killing. And Owen Jones is like, oh, I love the arms manufacturers. Think of that. How many times have I talked about this? That you have to give credit to the woke warmongers. You have to give them credit, because the internet did allow them, and as we know, all these different intelligence brigades, military level propaganda, the globalist psychopaths bent their wills towards indoctrinating the people. And it's worked. because the left, even up in the even in the noughties, they were normal. The noughties, they were normal. The left were just working class people who cared above all about working class communities. And then it started to change when the globalist sociopaths took over and started weaponising the internet in the noughties. And now every single left wing principle has been upended. And now the Guardian readers love the big pharma companies. Love them. They're like, oh, big pharma, brilliant. Pfizer, yeah. You see a lefty in a Pfizer t-shirt now. They love the big pharma companies. They love all the arms manufacturers. They love the state media. They love the BBC. All the stuff they old left in the 70s. Remember, the hippies. You were, man. They hated, like, the lying media. They distrusted big corporations. They hated the state media, especially, because they were just a mouthpiece of the man. They hated the arms manufacturers. They hated big pharma. They've managed to turn all of those things into cool. Like, they're cool then, if you're left-wing now. And it's left to people like us, the old school conservatives and the centrists and the libertarians and everybody else, the people that aren't woke, so it's like the 70% of people that haven't been propagandized, are sitting there going like, are you people completely mental? Are you completely mental? Like, do you just want endless war? Is that your plan? Sorry, missed one there. Phoenix Aaron, thanks for an 8 and 7, mate. Cheers, I appreciate that. It's not that much for a pint of Guinness out here. I think it's about $8. I'll get a pint and a half for that. Appreciate it though. Cheers. Yeah, the world's gone completely mental. And I've saved this tweet because I love that, off Matt Goodwin. That's very sensible. He says, I'm sorry, but the idea that Europe, a continent divided and led by hapless elites who consistently made the wrong decisions on everything, from energy and defence spending to immigration, can go it alone without America is for the birds. Some people on here are in cuckoo land. Yeah, they are absolutely mental. This is, how many times have I said it over the last 4 or 5 years? The elites are as thick as dehydrated whale spunk. They are the thickest people. They are just wrong all the time. Wrong. Nick Clegg's like, oh, no point building nuclear power plants. Wrong. Boris, the EU, all of them, Ursula and Guy Verhofstadt and Klaus, all of them, wrong, constantly. And there's like plumbers and builders who just like read the papers every day going, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? You've got labourers carrying bricks up a ladder all day and they have 10 minutes to read the newspapers when they have the bait. And they know more about common sense and logic than the elites, who all they've done for the last 40 years is completely fucked up the entire world. So what do you want from me? Do you want me to say it's the very definition of insanity, isn't it? If you keep making the same mistakes and you expect a different outcome. They're just wrong all the time. So the people have had enough and said, tell you what, let's stop voting for these people. Let's embrace a really strange phenomena. The first ever man who came down the golden escalator, the first ever man in the history of the Republic to run for president who wasn't either a government official, a career politician, or a military leader, to just, why don't we just go with him? And that's why, again, the British people, God bless them, if you trust the people, they know, that's why they went for Brexit. Well, again, another slur against the working classes was that we didn't know. They were like, oh, you didn't know what you were voting for. Yeah, everyone got a leaflet. Everyone got a leaflet. What do you mean they didn't know? Again, my hatred and contempt, and I think my first tentative steps on the slope was Brexit. Because those of you who have watched for a long time know, you know, I don't tell any lies. I've been honest about my political slide. You know, I always considered myself a liberal. And when I first moved to America, I guess I was living here at the time. It was about 10 years I've been here. So what was Brexit? Was it like 2016? 2015? I'm sure when I just moved here. And I still considered myself a liberal. And I was still saying, oh yeah, I like Bernie Sanders in America. But Brexit was the first time when I was like, I didn't vote because I was on the fence. I've told you about that as well. Embarrassingly, I didn't vote for Brexit. But I was leaning towards Brexit. I was like, listen to both sides of the argument by the captured lying middle-class media. And I was like, there's good arguments either way. And I'm sure every single person reading this who was more sensible than me, probably a bit older, because, I don't think I'm abnormal for whatever I was at the time, 33 or 4 or something. Like, I was in the middle and I was like, yeah, there's good arguments for and against. And they were all talking about how it was going to be economically difficult and blah, blah, blah. And young people have less options and stuff. But I was like, yeah, however, on this instance, I'll sit it out because I can see both sides of the argument and I'm living in the US. I just moved to the US. So I didn't vote for Brexit, but I was always going, yeah, I mean, if it seems to me that all the people in the shitholes are voting for Brexit because the system we've used for the last 25 years hasn't worked for them. So maybe it's worth the economic risk. And whenever you talk to anyone who was older, all the old people who do the reading, which is again why it annoys me so much when the slow working class people and say, they didn't know what they were voting for. They knew loads. You talk to the average Brexit voter, they're far more aware and politically astute than the average Remainer knobhead. Much, much, much more. And they all said the same stuff. Most of them were like, yeah, it's a bit of a gamble and it might be economically difficult for a little while, but it's worth it for our independence. It's worth it for our peace of mind. It's worth it for our ability to sign our own trade deals and get out the ECHR. Everyone knew both sides of the argument. Nobody went in eyes closed because everybody was really, because England's a well-read place, everyone was listening to the debate rage for months and months. So everybody knew what they were voting for, which is why I got so offended by the slur. And I can see by reading the comments, and I totally agree, we didn't get it. We didn't get it. And this is what I'm saying. I think this was my first tentative steps on the slope to go from Bernie Sanders is good to God save the Orange Oracle. Because that was when it became clear that there was a movement of Machiavellian globalist sociopaths who were stomping on people's rights. And ultimately, even though I'm an old school liberal at heart, the point I've always made is that integrity matters. And which is why I use the example. Anna Turley is one of my most loathed and despised politicians. Obviously, she got back in thanks to the Tories. Because Anna Turley was voted in at Redcar, parachuted in, she's not from Redcar. And she was the MP for a constituency that was one of the most anti-EU in the whole of the UK. Because Redcar, if you don't know, is the seaside town for people from Middlesbrough. So as you might expect, it isn't the Gold Coast. And they were one of the most rabidly Brexiteer-y towns in the UK. And when they voted for it, she didn't go, oh, okay then, I'll do as I'm told, because I'm a fat liar. She went, oh, well, you voted the wrong way. And then she was doing everything she could, voting for a second referendum, always backing the EU, voting for hamstringing our negotiations, telling them we had to have a deal. Like, I mean, think about that. Taking the piss out of working class people. Think of how backwards and stupid that whole argument was. They passed a law because they didn't want to deliver Brexit and they didn't deliver Brexit. They passed a law saying that the David Davis and the negotiating team is not allowed to not have a deal. So they couldn't go, oh, well, we'll just walk away then. They made it so we had to have one because they didn't deliver Brexit. They didn't deliver it. We're still beholden to the European Union. We're still beholden to the European Court of Human Rights. Every time we want to do anything, these unelected twats from the continent stick their oar in time and time again. We didn't get it. So I said, oh, okay, now I'm starting to get right wing all of a sudden because you people don't listen. And I used that, and I tell you for that example that I said, if 80% of the people of Redcar had a referendum to bulldoze the pier, the vertical pier, it's an abortion anyway, if they voted get rid of the pier and instead erect a 50-foot penis, if the people of Redcar voted for it, I would get it built if I was the local MP. That's why the scumbags that run things in the UK like it, the system the way it is, because this representative democracy isn't representative, is it? Because they say, oh, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you vote for them, and then a week later, as Starmer has shown us with such marvellous aplomb, if they do the exact opposite of every single thing they said, tough titty. Innit? Tough titty. If Keir Starmer's manifesto said, well, look at Nick Clegg. Nick Clegg's the best example. We will lower tuition costs. And then he gets in to Downing Street with Cambo and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'll tell you what I'll do. What? You meet me halfway? Put him up. And what could you do? What could you do? Starmer, I just made a video about it last week. Starmlin said, oh, yeah, we're definitely not going to put taxes up. Oh, no, we will freeze, with his little robot voice, we will freeze council tax. And then he gets in, put it up. Put it up. Do the exact opposite of everything you told them. So you don't live in a democracy. You don't live in a democracy. There's another one. Nandy Pandy. These people are parasites, worms, maggots. I don't care. I don't care what you have to say, government. I don't care. And again, and that's why they're trying to criminalise normal, regular criticism. We'll find out, because I'm due back shortly. We'll find out. And I don't give a flying shite. I've already done my due diligence. Joined the Free Speech Union. Taken a burner. And I'm not playing the game. YouTube don't allow you to say anything genuinely hateful. YouTube and Facebook are very, very strict with all that stuff. If I get nicked for simply saying, for the last 4, 5, 6 years, however long it's been, that the leaders of the United Kingdom are detestable, self-serving, parasite liars, and I despise them all, well, so be it. I told you, I will have a fatty on all the way to Wormwood Scrubs. I'll be tent pegging my prison jumpsuit for 12 months solid. They will not be able to get rid of my boner because you're just proving me right. Do it. Do it. I love it. I love it. And did you think prisons got... Do you honestly think that'd bother a bootneck? I would lap it up. Lap it up. Not only would I not be bothered by it, I would be the daddy. It'd be like Scum. Remember, everyone's seen that film. I'd be like, where's your tool? What tool? Yeah. Right? There's no way. There's no way. So, I hope that the lunatics running the United Kingdom instantly cart me off to the cells. I hope they do it. I love to be the example. I've told my boss as well. I said to him, here, save my details. I'm going to film a YouTube video and I'm going to put it on a timed release. So I'll put it for like 24 hours after I'm due to land. And if I get nicked, it'll release and you can all see it. And it'll be cool, won't it? It'll be one of them like, if you are reading this message, I am dead. But I'm not dead. Well, I might be. Maybe I'll suicide in the cell. Yeah, it'll be one of those things I can put it through. It'll be like, if you are seeing this message, I have been detained for calling the British Prime Minister, who just yesterday insisted to Donald Trump that we had freedom of speech in the UK that he was very proud of. I've been detained for calling him a gigantic homosexual, closeted homosexual, charmless android with all the charisma of a leper, a radioactive Chernobyl leper. I'm allowed to say that stuff, aren't I? Easy. Easy. That's my opinion. Anna Soubry was allowed to smear 50 million people, call them all, every word under the sun, and then as soon as James Goddard gave her a bit of lip, he got jailed for it. Mr. Mellier got locked up for putting politely worded, sensibly worded stickers up. You're not living in a free country. No, you're not. You're living in a police state. And Keir Starmer can lie all he wants to the president. We all know that he's a liar. He's a demonstrable, proven liar. He's a snake. He's a rat. He's a viper. And they can clip this and they can show it to a jury of my peers. And I'm confident they will 100% equip me, just like they did with Jamie Michael, because this is England and we've got 1,000, well, more than 1,000 years of history on our side that says since the Magna Carta, I'm allowed to call the bell end that's running my nation of birth a massive, massive throbber. Not only am I allowed to call him that, I can wholeheartedly tell you that were some tragic accident to befall him, I'd laugh like that. Ha ha, like Nelson. I'm allowed to say that. I'm not a stupid man. You can't promote violence and you can't advocate for it, but you can say, you know what? If that bastard's house burnt to the ground, I would take the kids to cook sausages on the ashes, and we could have a house. We could have an impromptu rave on the fucking debris, because I despise him. I despise what he's done to my country. I despise him for his treason, his treachery, his hatred for the working classes. I loathe him, and there is no requirement for me to say otherwise. And anybody who thinks otherwise, well, yeah, all right, lock me up. And thanks for proving me right. Because it seems all right when they do it. When that big, fat, poison dwarf, see, more insults, perfectly reasonable, Emily Thornberry, goes round a working class man, a decent, noble, honourable man, who works and toils and pays his taxes and feeds his children and loves his wife, gets smeared as a hateful, bigoted, xenophobic, fascist, sexist, racist, homo-Nazi. When a man like that gets smeared, that's an insult, that's a gruesome, that's an awful, awful insult, that's a smear and a slur. So I think you're getting off lightly if I just say you're a little, ugly, fat dwarf with a face like a slapped arse. I think you got off lightly there. Joe, don't give me any money if you're skint, love. Crikey, you don't know. This isn't... Bootneck's not behind a paywall, and he never will be. But I do appreciate it very much. It's ludicrous to me. It's preposterous that he went to the White House and said to the president with a straight face. Although even that, did you notice? Even that, he was slippery with his machinations in front of the president. Way, Phoenix Arents gifted 10 Bootneck memberships. Thanks very much. Grab them. Keep it up with them, by the way, because that's mint. Seriously, I reckon if I get another 100 members, I can just quit my job and do this full time. Pay the bills easy with my Spartan lifestyle. And then I'll do 2 videos. In fact, if I had that time, I'd start another channel, because I'm convinced Suzar is still putting both tits on the scales for my channel. Convinced of it. Told you, when I do a stream like this, it says I've got 1,479 people watching. So I get 1,500 people watching this stream. There's people out there who've got like 500,000 subscribers. And when they're doing a live stream, there's like 600 people watching it. I'm convinced that she's haunting me. Suzar is fucking me from beyond the grave, the bitch. So, yeah, thanks for the memberships. Good effort, that. Oh, and Anthony's at it as well. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's in your interest if you like watching me talk bollocks, because, yeah, if I get the chance, I will do this full time. And I think if I pocket another few hundred SpaceX shares, I just have to tough it out for a bit longer. I'll be doing this for a living. So that'll be good, won't it? It's easy when you don't wear gold and you cut your own hair with a broken bottle. Yeah, easy, I can do that. Anyway, so the point I'm getting at is there's nothing wrong with ripping the piss out of your politicians, or there never used to be. The law's clear. The law's black and white. The law's black and white. It says you're not allowed to incite violence or hatred or intimidation or threats. There's no law that says you're not allowed to call David Lammy a fat, sweaty gimp. Do you know what I mean? It's so obvious. Like, I can't believe people are stupid enough to fall foul of these laws, these overbearing laws. To be honest, the UK is a lot more overbearing than the US. The US is way better because we've got the Constitution. But even in the UK, it's not that hard as long as you're sensible enough to avoid it. They unwisely and unfairly and unjustly and illegally, because they just write the laws, introduced a law which Ash Sarkar personally crowed about, you can remember, saying that you're not allowed to be racially abusive to someone. Okay, so first of all, strongly disagree with that law, because essentially that's just calling someone names. Don't agree with it. But second of all, if you get busted for doing that, you are stupid, aren't you? You are stupid because you know that there's much easier ways to annoy people than by picking on things like that. I've told you this before. If I bumped into Diane Abacus in the street, there's at no point would it even go into my mind to abuse her like that in an illegal fashion, because I'm not a genuinely hateful, bigoted, xenophobic person. And I don't believe a lot of the science, the sort of junk science that we get told. So I don't really have an animus against people like for that reason. As I've said to you, I don't think it would offend. I don't think racially abusing Ash Sarkar would offend her, because most people aren't offended by broad, wide slurs. They're offended by individual things. So if you do that, you are stupid, because they don't get offended by. Think about it. Just think about it. If you get called a cracker, does that offend you? There's no part of that is offensive. But when you're at school and you're picking on your friends, how do you upset them? It's by picking on actual characteristics of them as an individual, isn't it? So if you know someone when you're 12, and a bloke in my school, a lad called Woodsy, he had proper mashed up teeth. So we used to call him Sloth. And that used to upset him because it was true for him. Whereas if you just called him a racial slur, nobody cares, do they? Because it's broad brush. Exactly, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. This is powerless. Whereas if you're short and you've got a chip on your shoulder about being short, it upsets you when someone calls you short ass, doesn't it? If I was 5'4" and I had a chip on my shoulder about my height, it'd annoy me when someone called me a dwarf. So you don't need to say anything that'll get you in trouble. You just need to use schoolyard insults. Remember, schoolyard insults, I'm 45 years old, never grew out of them. If I met Abacus on the street, I would torture her. I would torture her. But I wouldn't have to pick on something as pointless and crass as ethnicity or race. You could be like, fuck me, you do look like you get dressed in the dark. Are you wearing that dress for a daring bet? Did you raid the clothing bank out the back of the Sally Army hostel? You thick, buffalo-arsed, brain-dead, hippopotamus, geggy fucking shithead. You say stuff like that to her, right? You don't need to pick on anything as trivial as a background. It's ludicrous. So yeah, the point I'm getting at there is, first of all, it shouldn't be illegal, but secondly of all, don't play those games. Ash Sarkar proves. I mean, if you're going to talk about two-tier justice, I'll actually move on the screen, because there was a good tweet I wanted to talk about there with regards to two-tier justice, and it was by George Galloway, because Ash Sarkar proves two-tier justice is a 100% verifiable fact, because she crows about how you cannot call it. You've all seen the video. She crows about the fact that she knows that you can't say anything about her background. And she crows about it because she loves doing it to you. You've all seen it, haven't you? Ash Sarkar has made videos where she's on Twitter going, in America, you have the right to call me a racial slur, but in England, you don't. Yeah, if you're in England and you use a racial slur against me, you can be arrested and sent to prison for a very long time. Anyway, now I'm just going to slag off horrible, pasty, evil cracker all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week, racially slur white people all the time, never get in trouble for it. So there's the proof of the pudding. Of course, there's a two-tier justice system in the United Kingdom, because a black man can call you whatever he wants and he'll never, ever, ever, ever get arrested. Hate crime legislation is two-tier legislation, because how many people have been arrested for calling you a racial slur? How many? How many people have been prosecuted under these hate speech laws and sent to prison. How many people have been sent to prison for mean tweets that were African? How many? Anyone know? I'll go with zero. I'll go with zero. I don't believe any black person in the UK has ever been sent to prison for racially abusing anyone. But they'll send you to prison all day long for it. So is that not evidence of a two-tier? Oh, I didn't know that. Tom McDonald has 4 million subs and gets the same amount as me in a live. I've got 1,487 watching now. So the bent on it's YouTube putting it's the ghost of Sousa haunting my channel. Anyway, this is I'm going to find this example of two-tier justice that Galloway shared because it was very interesting. Oh, Paul Embry, he's a ginger tosspot as well, isn't he? That's totally bollocks. Whatever your view of the Ukraine issue, it was utterly embarrassing. And everyone in the replies was like, he was rude. He was disrespectful. And Embry was like, he wasn't disrespectful. What, have you not got eyes? So I posted that. Look, he wasn't disrespectful. I said, he definitely was. If I invited him into my kitchen and talked to him, and he talked to my old man like that, he would have knocked 10 bells of shite out the cheeky little... and I would have laid the boot in. I would have done. He was rolling his eyes with his arms folded like that, going, like proper taking the piss out of the orange oracle. Not having it. Not on my watch. If I was there, I'd have picked him up by the scruff of his neck and just grabbed his arse of his trousers, well, because he's only little, and just horsed him out the back door like a little, like a recalcitrant child. It was ridiculous. Yeah, here's a wanker. Exactly. Folded his arms, looking like a little angry kid. Anyway, where's the... No, this is disgraceful. Henry Bolton, another warmonger who'll never ever have to fight in a war. I said, stands to reason you got an OBE for international security when you're a warmongering chicken hawk that helped cause the death of millions and is now champing at the bit for World War III. These people are scum. Scum. Just copying the Americans, Black Caucus when we don't need one. Yeah, Black Caucus. Unbelievable. In England. How many of you... seriously, there was about 6 people in the UK that looked like Dawn Butler in about 1983. These people are ridiculous. Yeah, he's a knobhead as well. Dominic, don't know who he is, but he's a knobhead. Yeah, here we are. Here's the two-tier thing I'm talking about. So, George Galloway, again, because I'm normal, I disagree with George Galloway all the time. Plenty of things I don't agree with George Galloway on. But I'm a normal human. So when he disagrees with me, I go, don't really agree, George. I don't do what the woke sociopaths do, which is like J.K. Rowling gives money to the Labour Party for 25 years, agrees with them on absolutely everything for 25 years, and then goes, maybe a face-tattooed skinhead shouldn't be going in the woman's prison. And they go, evil, happy, oh my God, I hope she gets rogered to death by 20 Somalian pirates. They're literally sending her death and surprise sex threats all the time because they're the tolerant, pleasant, nice people. Yeah, cheers then. Makes loads of sense. Makes loads of sense. And this is another example. George Galloway. I agree with George Galloway about 50% of the time. It's fine because that's what normal people do. George Galloway often totally got the wrong end of it because ultimately he's some sort of socialist, isn't he? But he's an old school lefty. So when he's right, he's right. And the point he made here, which is unequivocal, even better than my Ash Sarkar point, whereby she loves telling you that you're not allowed to racially abuse or you'll go to prison for it. But then she does it constantly all the time. And she loves being racist because she knows it drives everybody angry. And then she can hide behind her little shield and go, hey, I can racially abuse you, but you can't racially abuse me. It's in the law. It's in the law, so suck on it. She loves doing that because she's a horrible, spiteful little communist. But here's George Galloway's point. See, this makes no sense. How can you go to jail for an email to an MP, but walk free from jail when you are an MP and you batter a constituent to the ground? How obvious is that? How obvious is that? There is no... That is a home run. That is a home run for the two-tier thing. Is it not? Even better than it is better than my obviously demonstrable Ash Sarkar one, because it involves physical violence. Anything, words are wind. You can ignore wind. It's why the difference between GBH and murder is such a big one, isn't it? Because you can get over that. You can get over that, but you don't get over that. And words, you can misconstrue words. Everyone lies. There's lots of things. But to physically assault and beat a man until he's on the ground and walk free, basically, because he did get off, like, he got 10 weeks suspended, right? He didn't actually get dragged off to a maximum security prison. So he battered a member of the public and assaulted him, physically accosted him in the streets and out. But this bloke sent a deplorable email to Jess Phillips and he gets half a year in prison. Half a year. It's mental, isn't it? It's mental. So if Jess Phillips went around the Devon man's house, headbutted him, kicked him in the bollocks, like, and left him covered in blood on his driveway, she'd get 10 weeks suspended. But if he then sent her an email afterwards and said, "Oh, you goofy sheep-toothed harridan, there was no need for the kick in the knackersack," then they go around his house and he gets 28 weeks in prison. So there you go. So am I mental? Or have I made the point clearly enough? It's we know what's going on. We know what's going on. In fact, the Pelosi one's even better, isn't it? Let me just look that up, because I'm sure some of you lot will have missed this one, living in the UK. Paul Pelosi attacker sentenced. Yeah, here we are. So, this is the best example. This is even better than that. This is even better than that one. So, the political class that look after themselves and treat you with utter disdain. Physically assault you, no jail. You complain about it loudly in an email, lots of jail. All right? The political class, corruption, theft, embezzlement, child abuse, suspended sentence or a fine. Suspended sentence or a fine. Doesn't matter what, all of that stuff, they've all done it and they've all got suspended sentences. But this one takes the cake, because the bloke who attacked Paul Pelosi, when they say attacker, he hit him once. He hit him once. Everyone saw the body cam footage. It was a glancing blow with a hammer. He's like, "Get him." And the coppers are all over him straight away. He was clearly mentally ill. There was something suspicious going on in the middle of the night. And he gets sentenced to life without parole. Which, I don't know if you're aware of this, but even if you, let's say, I don't know, dragged a 15-year-old girl off a school playground, bummed her till her eyes bled, chopped her head off, put it on a spike outside the local school, and then ate the remains, you wouldn't get life without parole. You just wouldn't. They almost never give you life without parole. But this guy does a glancing blow on Paul Pelosi and gets life without parole. If the same thing happened to me, if I opened the front door and a lunatic was stood there and he got me a glancing blow with an hammer and I was fine the next day, the bloke who did it would get about 6 months for it. But this guy, because he knows stuff, life without parole, it's got to be dodgy, hasn't it? It's got to be dodgy. It's got to be. There's no way on God's green earth that you land a glancing blow on a man and you get life without parole. It's impossible. As I said, if that same thing happened to you, the bloke who did it would get 6 months. But this bloke, because he's some sort of globalist rent boy or whatever, right? Because Klaus has bounced on his dirt box, he gets life without parole. Makes loads of sense, doesn't it? Makes loads of sense. Definitely nothing dodgy going on there. He's a saint. He's a saint. Bless him. You couldn't make it up, could you? Couldn't make it up. So I love that. That is, without doubt, the best example of two-tier justice you'll ever see. He gave him a glancing gobble. That's why he hit him. He was halfway through his nosh, and then the police interrupted him, and he was like, there's a copper out there. And the bloke was like, well, I'm on the vinegar strokes, you twat. Fair enough, that, innit? You don't stop when you get to the good bit. That's against the rules. So there's definitely something going on there. Life without parole for a trivial matter. That, again, if a bloke did it to my missus on the doorstep, a madman went down in the middle of the night, twatted my missus with a hammer, he'd get like 6 months for it. But this guy will never get released. So all of the cannibals and serial killers are going, I'll be out before you, knobhead. Makes loads of sense. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, he didn't hit him hard enough. Because maybe he would have got some sense battered into him if he at least lamped him with something other than a glancing blow. Sniper Side, I can't believe you're going to give up your seat to Mars for YouTube. You could be an influencer on another planet. Yeah, there is a few people think I'm mad. Sagan would definitely go to jail for not wanting a surprise sex. Just, yeah, probably would. Anyway, thanks for the Ayrton Senna. There is a few people think that's mad. My old fella does, but I'm doing like 50 hours a week, plus doing this probably 90 minutes, 2 hours a day on the side before I go to work. It's hard graft. It's 60 plus hours a week basically, and I think at the end of the day, if I'm not spending what I'm earning now and I've got some stock squirreled away, all I need to do is cover the mortgage and I'll be good. I have very low standards. I'm very proud to say I drive the biggest piece of shit in the SpaceX car park. No, that'll remain the case. So that's good, innit? Love that. I'll do one more because I'm starting to lose my voice after talking to Paula as well. Let's find one more interesting thing to talk about. But that's ludicrous, isn't it? Oh yeah, in fact, let's watch this. This is worth watching. So the aforementioned Mr. Galloway, often wrong, sometimes right. But when a man's right, you got to give him the credit for it, right? This is worth watching. I'll just play like 3 minutes of it. Because those of you that have just got no time to read the actual lengthy history of what's going on in Ukraine, you've probably only heard the BBC version of events. And the BBC version of events is total bollocks. This is a long and complex and difficult issue that anyone who's paid any attention is well aware has gone on for decades. It isn't just one day Putin invaded for no reason. Done. That's not true. And George Galloway does a very good summation of it here. But what's on your hoodie? That's Falcon 9. That's the type of rocket that does all of the Starlink deployments. The dead common spaceship rocket you see flying all the time, the one we use reusable, that's a Falcon 9 rocket. The big fancy one's called Starship. That doesn't go up as often. I'm supposed to be, fingers crossed, my boss said it's happening, supposed to be getting a private jet to watch the launch on Monday. So fingers crossed I'll actually be there for the next Starship launch on Monday, and it all goes well because it's interesting, really, really interesting stuff. But yeah, that's all that is. It's the name of a rocket. Anyway, just watch this for a couple of minutes because it's mind blowing. He does a fantastic job of totally embarrassing the professional liar with blood on his hands, Keir Starmer. How do I blow it up?
Something when, having spent a lifetime myself fighting against NATO and American wars, it's the Americans that are trying to stop the war, and Piers Morgan, Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer who are trying to keep it going.
I don't want to keep it going.
You've got a lot of Ukrainian,
I don't want to keep it going.
You've got a lot of Ukrainian blood on your hands. You have lied about this war from the beginning.
Actually, Vladimir...
You have lied about the origin of this war, about the duration of this war, about the course of this war, and now having caused you and your war party the death of 1 million Ukrainians while claiming to love Ukrainians, you're now calling for British lives to be lost.
What a load of absolute bullshit.
That constitutes close to a war crime. You're going to regret it when very soon Zelensky is sitting in a beachfront villa somewhere counting his ill-gotten gains. and all the secrets of the rampant corruption between the Democrats and the Zelensky regime begin to tumble out of the cupboard. This war did not begin 3 years ago. You very well know that it began in 2014. You very well know that it began with a coup against the elected president of Ukraine, backed by Victoria Nuland and the administration at that time, and supported by you. You very well know that the criminalization of the Russian language, which followed hard on the heels of that coup, was the proximate reason for an uprising in the east of the country amongst Russian-speaking, ethnically Russian people. You very well know that Zelensky and his predecessor rained down shot and shell on the people of East Ukraine for 8 years before Putin intervened in 2022, and that 14,000 people, most of them women and children, were killed in.
We can leave it there, can't we? That is just perfect. That is perfect. As I said to you, all you have to do is just ask yourself a simple question. Is he lying? Is he lying? I've told you this loads of times. It's a mantra of my old fella's always said, and I stole it off him. It doesn't matter how clever you are. It doesn't matter how educated you are. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter how big your platform is. You can never make an honest man into a liar. You can't do it. If the man is telling the truth, it is a shield, and the truth shall set you free. How many mantras are there about the truth? Because it's got power. And you don't have to be anything. You don't have to be an amazing orator. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be well educated. If you just tell the truth, you cannot lose to these people. You cannot lose. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Say the truth, not your truth. That pink or commie bullshit. Everyone's truth is different. There's the truth. And you can tell with the passion that he delivers that there. It's the truth. It's the truth. So Morgan's just sat there, little fat, beady-eyed gammon. Calls everybody else a gammon. They call someone like me with good skin and clear eyes, because I go to the gym 6 days a week, a gammon. Look at the clip of that fat, 20-chinned greaseball on the left there. And he calls everyone else a gammon. It's the truth. It's the truth. And that's why he sat there with his eyes like a shithouse rat. 2 piss holes in the snow, looking like a cringing little worm, and Galloway on the right just giving him blast, because he didn't tell any lies there. The truth of the matter is this. I'll sum up because I'm ranting, but it pisses me off, because I've been talking about Ben McBean there on Twitter. I've been in a war. I've actually been in Afghanistan when several of my colleagues got shot. We had to run across open ground as they bled to get to the helicopter while under fire from a load of pot-bellied desert dwarfs, and I've seen the cost of it. And when rats like Piers Morgan and Zelensky and anybody else and Anna Merkel and Keir Starmer and all these fucking snakes who will not ever go within 10 miles of a battlefield, and the kids will never go, and the nephews will never go, and the sisters and the brothers will never go, none of them will ever go. And then that little shit Poison Dwarf sits there on national television and says, we have had no help, when we've just sent him $200 billion, you little pipsqueak. Like I said, I would have grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and horsed him out the back door, the little shit, right? Don't tell me that you can't negotiate. You can't negotiate. There's 2 sides to every story. Anyone who knows the history of Northern Ireland understands. You can understand why a Catholic would be pissed off. You can understand why a Protestant would be pissed off. And anybody who understands the history of Ukraine can fucking understand why Russians would be pissed off and Ukrainians would be pissed off. Eastern Ukrainians would be pissed off and Western Ukrainians would be pissed off. There's 2 sides to every argument and there's 2 sides to every war. And fucking, I shit you not, that little rant would probably get nodding heads from Martin McGuinness and Sinn Féin and Johnny Adair and Bobby the paratrooper who loves headbutting pyra activists, because everybody knows the wisdom of it. And that's why this bloke that I disagree with frequently just spat facts to that fat, beady-eyed worm across the screen from him because it's true. It's true. And that is a complex situation. The only thing he got wrong was when he was saying, oh, the war started in 2014. It goes back earlier. Like I said, the IRA, it didn't start after the Easter Uprising. It started in 1602 or maybe the 1500s earlier because it's complicated. The war in Ukraine didn't start in 2014. He was wrong on that one point. It goes back further. It goes back further. It goes back to the 80s. It goes back to when we promised unified Germany and we won't go east. It goes back decades and decades. Promises were made and promises weren't kept. And nobody, and the reason I know about it is because I've been reading Peter Hitchens' column enthusiastically for years, who talks a lot of sense as well. Nobody's saying Putin's a good guy. That's another childish, fucking delusional, infantile, embarrassing shit. The second you go, oh, maybe we shouldn't have a war, they'll go, oh, you want to suck Putin's cock? It's literally like being a child on a on a primary school playground. It's like being a child. When you even say, of course I don't like Putin, but maybe we shouldn't have endless war. Oh my God, you want to get piped by Putin whilst wanking yourself silly. No, I don't. Nobody says this who's serious. It's a complex decision. It's a complex scenario. Both sides have fair points to make. So guess what? You go to the table and you fucking hash a deal out. Because the alternative is endless death. The Japanese could have kept fighting. The Japanese could have got nuked and went, you know what? Fuck it. No, never, ever, ever, ever surrender, ever. Like Zelensky said, never, ever, ever surrender, ever. Give them nothing, keep getting money, never, ever surrender. But what they did was, they went, you know what? You've malleted us there, lads. The Japanese are a proud people. Kamikaze, that's why they ended up having to nuke them. The Japanese weren't going to surrender. They're a proud people. But when the second one dropped, they went, you know what? Fuck this. Peace. The Allies met them. We signed a lot of agreements. We shook hands through gritted teeth and enmity because we hated them. After what they did to our lads in Singapore, after we built the Burmese railway, after what the Japanese did to us, we hated them. My grandfather hated them. And we dropped a nuclear bomb, so guess what? They hated us. But what did we do? We shook hands and we were magnanimous in victory, as a wise man who reads history always is. Magnanimous in victory. And then we signed on the dotted line and we gave them money and we shook hands and we worked together and we educated together and we trained together. And then you get to 2010 and Japan is a beautiful, polite, pleasant land, happiness, pro-America, love baseball and freedom and England and everything else. That's what you do. That is what you do. And if you think otherwise, you're a fucking moron. You don't know anything. You've never read a history book or a geography book. And you're worthless to me. Your opinion is worth about as much as a bit of crusty jizz down the front of Monica Lewinsky's dress. All right, that's just a fact. So ran over. We have peace. We have peace. The Catholics and the Prods can have peace. The Japanese and the Allies can have peace. The Ukrainians and the Russians can have peace. And the only reason that little shit went over there was because he was purposely told to do so by the European Union, purposely told to antagonise Trump. It's no coincidence that they were all coming out 10 minutes after the thing ended, all saying the exact same sentence, as Neil Oliver wisely pointed out. It's no coincidence. So it's all bollocks, and don't let the fucking morons that run the world turn you into some sort of imbecile, because is Neil Oliver's tweet on it? Let me see if I can find it. I'll end with that because I'm ranting. But it's just proof. There we are. Look, who writes the script? It was on purpose. Who writes the script? Neil Oliver's tweeted out. This is just after the press conference ends, and they all say the same shit. Every one of them. Remember the video when it's got every single news channel and they're all saying the exact same thing about COVID? It's the same. Your dignity honours the bravery of the Ukrainians. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. Ursula. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. Roberta. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. Antonio. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. It's bollocks. It's bollocks. If you're massively pro, constantly fighting the Russians to the last drop of blood, well, you go over and do it. And you go and pay for it. Because you don't know history. Kennedy met Khrushchev. All wars end. The Queen shook Martin McGuinness's hand after they blew her bastard uncle up on the royal yacht We all know about that. Oh, and they killed some innocent little kids as well. Local lads who were working on the boat. You shake hands and you get over it. Or endless death. Fucking pick one. All right? Rant over. That was an hour. You can have that for now. Holy shit. Culminated in 1757 viewers. I think that's a record. God bless America and God save... Oh, no, not King Sausage Fingers. God save England's wonderful people. And not the collection of scum, detestable scum that run it. All right? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I appreciate it. Go and enjoy your Saturday. I'm going to go and have breakfast with my missus. All right? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I appreciate all the shares and the support and the likes and the super chats. And I'll see you all next week. All right? Toodle pip. Have a good weekend. See you soon. Cheers.